So mental health has quite rightly become a focus of attention over the past few years. And why? Because up to a quarter of all adults in the UK will experience some sort of mental health issue throughout the year. So awareness of mental health, talking about mental health and how we can manage it has really become a focus of attention. Now, there's some very easy things you can do to help combat mental health, and we're talking things like eating healthily, exercise, talking to friends, having a hobby, and visiting things in nature and going outdoors. And I'm very fortunate that I'm here in Scotland in the Highlands at Dunrobin Castle. So this is a beautiful castle, as you can see it up there, and here we are in the gardens. And evidence has proven that getting out in nature, exploring and embracing the outdoors is a fantastic antidepressant and anti-anxiety approach. But unfortunately not everyone can do that. So in this video I want to talk about some herbs that have evidence to show that they could potentially help combat and reduce the symptoms of anxiety and depression. Let's go. The first herb to discuss is a plant called Hawthorn, which you're going to find everywhere in Britain. Now, Hawthorn's very common and there's loads of different varieties, and in fact actually you might have even seen the berries that grow on the Hawthorns called haws, this bright red berry-like fruit that it grows. And what Hawthorn has been used for traditionally is for its blood pressure lowering effects. So it doesn't quite work in some of the other ways some of the other herbs work, which actually act on the GABA receptors. Interestingly, what Hawthorn does is lowers the blood pressure and reduces the heart rate, so it helps with that symptomatic feeling you get with anxiety. So if you check on the Herbal Docs website, look at the blog, you'll be able to find the research about it. But it's one of the key herbs that has been used traditionally hundreds of years for anxiety and for high blood pressure. Another great plant for anxiety is Passionflower. Now, Passionflower is typically found, or was typically found, in tropical climates like Mexico and South America, but now it's spread and you can find it in more subtropical climates as well. Now, Passionflower, great plant for anxiety, and one of the species of passionflower also grows a fruit called passion fruit, which you've probably had. It's quite hard to get passion fruit, but the most likely position that you've ever had passion fruit is in a mocktail or a cocktail, and it's really nice. So that species of passionflower produces that fruit, the passion fruit, whereas the rest of the species don't. Now, interestingly about passion fruit, what it does, it works by stimulating the GABA receptors, which are receptors in your brain that reduce your anxiety levels, and it causes a sort of sensation of sedation. And the way to describe it, or the way to have a parallel, is that it works very similar to benzodiazepines, things like diazepam, which also stimulate the GABA receptors. So passionflower stimulates those receptors and calm you, relax your nerves and cause that sedative feeling, similar to benzos and similar to alcohol. Now, interestingly, a 2011 study looked at passionflower and they gave it to people who were about to go for surgery, and they found that those patients, compared to a placebo group, had much better levels of relaxation, reduced stress, and felt more relaxed about the surgery. So there's a lot of evidence there, and there's some promising evidence that does show that it can help with anxiety levels. So Hawthorn and Passionflower, two great plants for anxiety. Next up, Motherwort. So Motherwort, it's another really interesting plant. It's a herbaceous plant and it's part of the mint family, and it originally came from Asia, but you'll find it all across the world now. Loads of studies on it, and they're not quite sure how it works in terms of whether it stimulates GABA receptors or certain other receptors, but there are some constituents which you'll find in the blog I've written about, and the evidence does show that it can also reduce anxiety levels. And again, if you want to check the references for those studies, check out the blog. But unlike with Valerian, for example, or unlike with Passionflower or Hawthorn, the mechanism by which Motherwort works isn't quite obvious. So there still needs to be evidence, or still needs to be research, out there trying to work out how it is that Motherwort can reduce anxiety. But what I did mention before was Valerian, and Valerian's really interesting, so let's talk a little bit about that. So as you can see, there's a bit of change of scenery here. Long gone is the sunshine, and we have now arrived at the Isle of Skye on the west coast of Scotland, and with that comes that gloominess, the wind, but in actual fact that really delivers a beautiful atmosphere to this amazing Isle of Skye. And this isle if you haven't heard of it, has a very long history of ancient peoples cultivating it, living here, and that links very nicely to the herb I'm going to speak about, which is valerian. Now, valerian is a herb, it's a perennial herb. You can find it throughout Europe and Asia, and it's been used for hundreds of years by ancient practitioners for its medicinal properties. And traditionally, it's been used to help with sleep. More now in the future, or not in the future, but more in the present time with anxiety, but in the past, it was predominantly used for sleep. And the ancients didn't really know why it helped with sleep, but current research has shown that valerian and the extract within valerian, which you can find the full list of them in the blogs, the Herbal docs, stimulates not only the GABA receptors we've mentioned, but also the serotonin receptors and adenosine receptors, and that triple threat really brings a sedative effect and helps with anxiety and sleep. And you often find it supplemented in many things as an aid for sleep, as a natural aid for sleep. So valerian, and interestingly, the molecule within valerian that we're interested in has been cultivated and used for a medication used for epilepsy called sodium valproate. So there's clearly some evidence that it does work with an inhibitory effect on the body. So valerian, fantastic herb, but be careful if you are on antidepressants because of that link with the serotonin receptors. So that is the herbs that I think show really promising evidence to help with anxiety, to help with stress. Be very careful when you are using them because of the interaction, and I would really urge you to speak to a licensed natural doctor, a licensed herbal practitioner, or a medical doctor if you are thinking of taking any of them. But that's that from me, from the beautiful Isle of Skye. Signing out, this is your boy Harris Mumtaz with the Herbal Docs. Peace.